I haven't, or had in my possession a series of letters. There were about 19 of them, and they all were letters that had been written by John Litster to the brother of a friend of mine. This brother was much older than my friend and I, and he was at that point in time in the military in training during World War II. And evidently he and John Litster, the founder of the Oregon Vortex, had been good friends, because I'm sure there was a lot more letters, but I happened to have 19. And I came about these letters in that this friend of mine, he and I lived together after I bought a house about 45 years ago. And evidently, they were in some of the stuff that I had in boxes, or we had in boxes, and we moved a couple of years ago, and I'm currently cleaning out the former house and came across these, and I thought, my goodness, this is interesting information here. And so the letters have since been sent to my friend, and he was absolutely thrilled to discover that I had them, because he didn't know, nobody knew about the existence of these until I found them.
And take me through that when you first opened the box and found them. I mean, do you remember what your initial reaction was? Like, oh my gosh, is this really what I think this is?
Well, first of all, this individual was, I mean, I knew him. I'd met him over the years, and I'd actually been to his house a couple of times. He lived in Vancouver, British Columbia, and he was really a bright guy and substantially older than my friend and I. And but I thought, well, what are these? And then I remembered, well, John Litster, he was the founder of the Oregon Vortex. And these were personal letters that he had written to Bill, and then Bill had responded to him, evidently. And it was primarily the period of the end of 1943 through 1944, and things that were going on in his life, but primarily things that were going on with the Oregon Vortex. There was a number of political things in there that they talk about, and various other things, just simple day-to-day things. We had a lot of snow up in Sardine Creek, or the fall colors are coming, and or the season has started and tourists are starting to come again, even during wartime rationing situations. So I thought, well, this is really an incredible resource here, because I'm relatively sure that the Oregon Vortex doesn't know about them. Well, I'm positive at this point in time. And obviously the long-term goal would be for my friend to review all of these letters and then present those to the Southern Oregon Historical Society, because they are a valuable treasure of what was going on during that period of time, and particularly with a roadside attraction that was pretty significant.
Mm-hmm. In terms of reading through the letters and the contents themselves, you had mentioned some political thoughts that he had. In terms of the vortex itself and the experiments he was doing there, I was hoping you could take me through just sort of an overall, some takeaways that you gleaned from his.
Sure. It was a roadside attraction, and some of the things I've read on the internet, there were people who think that it was just a kind of a flim-flam thing. But John was a Scottish mining engineer, and came to this country. I don't know how he ended up finding this situation up Sardine Creek, but excerpts from the letters, which I have, indicate that he had been conducting a fair amount of experiments that were really pretty far-fetched for the time. And I think the War Department was interested in some of them. People were a little bit amazed, and I'm sure some of them thought, well, this is hocus pocus. But unfortunately, as I understand it, many of his notes on experiment, or most of his notes on experiments, were burned. And so we aren't privy to those pieces of information. But the excerpts I have taken from the letters kind of give an insight to what the guy was all about as far as the vortex. These excerpts concentrate on that, not anything personal between he and his friend.
Mm-hmm. Did you glean anything about just his overall state of mind and maybe who he was as a person? You had previously mentioned that he's obviously very well educated, a good writer. I didn't know if there were any other characteristics you were able to perhaps glean from.
No, except that, on one side, my personal side says, yeah, it's probably, maybe it sounds a little hocus pocus, a little phony, and he discovered something that he could sell. On the other side of the coin, it sounds like his experiments were intricate enough, robust enough to indicate that he had another side to him. I mean, he really believed in what he was doing, and I don't think he would have told in his correspondence to this individual that, I think he was very, very true in what he was talking about. He believed in it, and some pretty insightful things as far as what he thought might be happening in the future, as far as particularly war and how war was waged.
Mm-hmm. Are there any people in current day that you could maybe perhaps liken him to? Like, are there any scientists offhand or people who are just like big thinkers like that you could liken him to, perhaps? Or?
No, I don't think so, not currently. If you had Nikola Tesla up here, who was incredible, John Litster would be this small little capsule down here, but he was thinking outside the box big time, and it sounded like he was conducting experiments that tried to prove that out.
You yourself have been to the Vortex once, is that correct?
Once, and I was a small child, yes.
Could you take me through what you remember about that?
I just remember my father being really interested in it, because I'm not too sure he might have been more than I had at that point in time. But, back in the 50s and before that, those kind of things were a big deal. You'd go and many times those kind of roadside attractions, when you got out to your car, you had a little cardboard placard wired to your bumper that said you'd been to the Oregon Vortex or the Trees of Mystery or whatever it might have been. And I know my father took, I don't know if he took a plumb bob, but I know he had levels and things that he took with him to try to disprove what was going on. And I think he was, I don't know if he was impressed, but he was certainly fascinated by the whole idea.
You've since handed off the letters to this John Litster's friend's brother.
Mm-hmm.
Take me through when you first indicated to him that you had these. I mean, what was his reaction?
Well, I think I probably called him that night after you and I had gotten together the first time, and told him what I had, and he was just stunned. First of all, there were some other things in there that didn't pertain to John Litster. A telegram saying that his sister had been born, and a couple of other things, letters from his mom and his dad. But he was just really, really surprised that these existed, and because obviously he and I didn't know that they existed, and he certainly had never heard about them. So I haven't heard back from him. He should have them by now, and I thought today I'll probably call him and just see if he has had a chance to go through them, because they were exciting for me, but he and I have been the best friends since 1952, so our relationship goes back a long time, from the first grade, and so it'll be fun to see what he thinks about the letters.
Have you ever talked about John Litster before, or his brother's relationship with him? Or?
I don't think so, because I can't remember why we'd have any reason to, and like I said, I knew his brother, and not well, but I knew him well enough to consider him sort of a friend. He's much older than my friend and I, and but the subject never came up. And of course, now in retrospect, I regret that. That would have been fascinating as can be to chat with him about that, because I'm sure he could have elaborated on maybe even some of the details of the experiments. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else? I mean, does your friend have any plans to do anything with them beyond keeping them, or?
Well, I encouraged him after he got through with them and copied them or whatever he wanted to do to give them to the Southern Oregon Historical Society, and I will continue to encourage that to happen. During the same period of time, when I brought these boxes up to the house we currently live in, I discovered a couple of registers from the late 1800s, early 1900s. One of them was postal register from the town of Draper, which was on Foots Creek, and the other one was for the Rock Point stage stop post office. Those I have since given those to the Historical Society, so they can keep those in their archives.
What is it about finding things like that that are in such good condition but are so old that it's just so thrilling, do you think?
Well, I think it is. I mean, I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. And when I tried to think back, where on earth did I come up with it? Particularly the registers, not the letters, but the registers. And I'm pretty sure those came out of the old Gold Hill Library building. I knew the librarian. It was Frances Brown, and she was the mother of a good friend of mine, Ron Brown, the former newscaster. He and I were close friends, as well as my friend in Eugene. And I was in the old library at one time, which had been a schoolhouse originally, and they were getting ready to build a new City Hall library. And Frances told me, she said, that back room has all kinds of interesting things in it, and if you want any of it, you probably ought to take it because I'm pretty sure it's going to the dump. And so I took a fair amount of stuff, and the registers, that must be where the registers came from. And I also acquired I don't know, probably a half a dozen to even maybe a dozens of, I'm going to call them silk screen rolls, which had been done that showed the engineering layout of the water and sewer system of Gold Hill. Those have been, I gave those to the Historical Society in Gold Hill, which they could give to the city works people some time ago, probably 20 years ago. But I mean, it was really interesting to find this kind of stuff and think it was going to the dump. And I mean, people cared about history, but I guess that's one of those things that kind of stuff can fall through the cracks. And so I'm certainly glad that these letters didn't fall through the cracks, because I think they're pretty significant based on, a roadside attraction, which is certainly known nationwide and maybe not nationally, but it's an interesting thing that people didn't know about before, but probably will here sometime in the future.
Did you, so forgive me, you've probably indicated this already, but do you remember about what year you found the letters, and was it at the same time that you found those registers, or were those different discoveries? No,
they were about the same time, yeah, which was just recently, because I just brought the boxes home from our other place. I still have a number of things to clean out at that other house, and I brought these up and was slowly going through them and finding things from my college days in Vietnam, and I thought, what are these? And realized who they'd come from and started reading them. And
what do you think it is about something like the Vortex that in the age of Netflix and 5G that can still endure as something that people want to go check out?
Well, it's a nice getaway. I mean, electronics are so prevalent in our society today. I mean, you can go into a restaurant and see couples, they're on their phone instead of talking to each other. And here's something that, I mean, the drive up Sardine Creek is a gorgeous drive, and the area is very pretty. Like I said, I haven't been there in decades, but I intend to go now, and hopefully get my friend down here from Eugene to go with me so that we can maybe even present copies to the people. I don't know. It's up to him. But it's a roadside attraction. It's something simple. Well, I think it's simple. It's different, and it's kind of like, I guess, low-grade magic. Why does that work? I'm not sure I really want to know, but it sure is fun to see that you're taller than me and that's not really the case, or vice versa, or things are rolling uphill. And so it's kind of one of those mysteries that I think people kind of enjoy, and it's kind of a slower paced thing than what we're used to now, where you can, get instant things all the time. I mean, you can get on the internet and find out almost anything. You got to weigh it with a pretty discerning eye, and their scale, but I think that's what, I think that's an attraction.
Did this give you a new energy to go find more stuff? Or, I mean, I would think that this would kind of give you just like a sort of a shot of adrenaline to
Well,
find something so cool.
You know, Ryan, it does. And I'm on the board of trustees of the Southern Oregon Historical Society, so I'm involved with that to a degree now. This kind of thing just sort of reinforces that and makes it more important for me to make sure these kind of things are preserved. And of course, down the road for the Historical Society is to reestablish a museum. That's big on the agenda. There's a number of challenges with that, but the society is addressing those things and working toward that end.
Awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to mention that I didn't touch on?
No, it's just that, there's so many times that I think things show up, particularly when people are cleaning things out, that one, maybe they don't know who it is, or photographs, or maybe it's some documents. Well, this is just junk. Well, perhaps not. The society doesn't take in everything. I mean, there's a limit. The Southern Oregon Historical Society has the second largest collection of artifacts and documents in the state of Oregon. That's one of the reasons we want to have a museum, so people can see this kind of stuff. And I think it's important that when people are going through memorabilia, that they look at it and say, well, this isn't just junk, or maybe somebody will want it, and could present it to an organization that, whether it's the Southern Oregon Historical Society or one of the regional historical societies like Gold Hill, Shady Cove, Central Point, that then they can analyze the material and say, well, this is something pertinent to the area, or this is something that, it's not even in the region, or maybe it's something that belongs in Roseburg. So I think that's important. And it'll be interesting to see what happens to these letters as far as how far they go. I mean, I personally would like to see some copies of the pertinent things go to the Vortex. And I'm sure the Coopers would like to see that too.